Hello and welcome to this month's interview for the Sacred Vision Life interview series, where we get together and we connect with different heart-centered, soulful entrepreneurs, and we talk about different subjects so that we can attract more love, more joy, we can experience more confidence in our lives and in our businesses. And today I am speaking with Cheryl Angela. And Cheryl's business is called Extraordinary Life, Extraordinary Business. She is a very interesting woman. She does coaching, she plays music, and I'm so excited to get to connect with her today. And the topic we're going to explore is embodying pleasure through spiritual connection. So welcome, Cheryl, to our interview time together today. I'm so excited to connect with you in this way, and it's so excited to see you after so many years of knowing each other and talking on the phone. I love this platform of Zoom that we can see each other. So please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business, the things that you do, and then let's dive into the topic.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. Thanks for letting me be your guest. And it is wonderful to connect heart to heart and face to face. It's really great. So as far as what I do and what I'm about, I'm definitely an entrepreneur through and through. Definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit very strong. And at this point in my business, I focus a lot with entrepreneurs who are really what I call conscious entrepreneurs. Some people say like heart-centered entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs. So people who really their intention is to really make a difference and to make a significant impact in the global scene, whether it's in their community, in a smaller group of people, or the global scene at large. So that's kind of like who I love to work with. The way I work with people is through working with their energy as well as strategy. So when it comes to business, I'm working with their energetic and their personal world and their own personal frequency and field, and then working on their business and that field and that energetics, and with then getting really practical and being very strategic about what we do and how we do it. I kind of have this, I guess, a unique spin on things because I am also a musician, and I've been a musician for a long time, and I've been trained in therapeutic music. So with therapeutic music, we're really working with frequency, vibration, and resonance, and working very much with the individual resonance of the person. Everybody has their own individual resonance. So I do that, and I do like concerts and healing journeys and so on for people, and I have recordings and all of that. But then I also integrate that in my coaching work when I'm working with coaching clients, even if they came to me to increase their impact and grow their business and their turnover, because everything is energy. So it's kind of like Einstein said, and Nikola Tesla said, that if you want to see different results, you have to change the energy, you have to change the frequency. So I really work on that. I have a program that's actually called Transform Your Frequency, Transform Your Life. Because when we change that, then we change the circumstances. And then I just have a very strong background in healing. And I've naturally just discovered a gift of healing when I was a child, and started actually working on people when I was a teenager. And because people were getting results and things were changing and shifting, I then trained informally in healing with reiki and theta and something called instant miracle and high energy frequency healing, and then of course the sound healing and the music. So that's kind of all integrated into my business at this point. Yeah.
Wonderful. That sounds amazing. And I know that you are a harp player.
Yes.
You mentioned that. And I know I have your music and I love it. I listen to it while I'm working when I'm struggling with focusing on what I want. It really helps me to
Oh, cool.
calm my own energy field to the point where I'm able to focus and complete what I'm doing. Whereas if I do it without the music, it will take me that much more longer, and I'll expend that much more energy to do that.
I love that. Yes, that's why I did it.
Yeah,
all those reasons. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I listen to it when I go on walks in nature as well, and it just puts me in this frequency that helps me to relax. And I know anytime that we relax, it really helps us to open and receive that which we're asking for. And so today we want to talk about the frequency of pleasure and how we can use our spiritual connection to really help embodying more pleasure. Because like we were talking about before, when we're in those higher vibrational emotions, when we're feeling love, when we're feeling connected, when we're feeling joy, we're able to receive and attract that which we ask for that much faster, that much easier. And so being in a state of pleasure is definitely a higher frequency that sometimes we might not think about. So what would you like to share about connecting to that frequency of pleasure, and how your spiritual connection helps you do that?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because it's not always the most obvious question we ask. You know, we often ask, we're trying to get results. So how can I make more money, have love in my life, or feel healthy? But it's actually, that's, if you have to turn it backwards and go, how, if I raise my energy and enter into this vibration of pleasure, which I relate to that as joy. So the energy of joy, the frequency of joy. And joy can be unconditional, and happiness can be unconditional. So we tend to think, when I have X, Y, and Z, or when I accomplish X, Y, and Z, then I'll feel pleasure, then I'll feel happy. But actually, when I feel happy, and when I have joy, and when I feel pleasure in my life, then I'll accomplish X, Y, and Z. So it actually like flips around. And spiritual connection, to me, how spiritual, I personally, having now worked with like hundreds, even thousands of people, you know, when it comes to the numbers of people over time, again and again, just would say that if I could give one solution to all, like a panacea, you know, to all problems, it would be spiritual connection. That when you tap into that, when you really access that, every problem can be solved. It's always solved from there. We get stuck. I mean, we all fall into it. I fall into it too. And then I have to remind myself, you know, that it's not going to be solved only by doing and pushing harder and trying to make things happen. But it's really leaning into that spiritual connection and that greater power and that energy. When we're connected, we make right decisions. We make good choices, and we're just in this higher vibration. I think of David Hawkins is somebody who measured frequency, measured levels of vibration, and 1,000 being the level of pure spirit. So that's kind of like enlightenment, where Buddha, Jesus would vibrate at that level. And 0 in the low hundreds being more the energy of like fear and shame and guilt, actually being some of the heaviest, densest energy. Joy on that scale of that 0 to 1,000 rate very high, even higher actually than love. So love is given a frequency of like 528, and in fact I've even recorded in that frequency when I did my love album on purpose to bring people into that frequency of love. Joy is up past the 700. So it's, you know, if you want to get real scientific, or you want to get real like numerical about it, it literally registers as a very high vibration, and it's very close to pure spirit. So I think, to me, in my own exploration spiritually and connecting in with spirit, that's almost like the ultimate energy of spirit. It's this bliss and joy, but it's a joy that's incredibly peaceful, rather than this euphoric, like, wow, you know, everything's just like amazing all the time, because that's a bit unreal. It's just this kind of peace and happiness inside of all situations. And when we can shift into that, no matter what is happening and no matter what we're dealing with in life, then everything does change. And but it comes from that spiritual connection rather than, how do we actually turn that light on? How do we turn that switch on? And it's really from that plugging in, which is why plugging in is so vital to us.
Yeah, I love that. I can just feel my own vibration rising just from this conversation and listening to you. And one of the key things that you said was to experience unconditional joy or unconditional happiness. That's a new concept to my brain. I know that I've experienced it, but to put those words together, I mean, I've heard unconditional love, I've heard unconditional forgiveness, but to put it with joy and happiness, I haven't. And that's made a really strong connection. Yeah, like wake up and just be happy for no reason.
Right.
Experience joy just because you're choosing joy.
Yeah, because you choose it, because you choose happiness. I actually had this experience many years ago of really reaching that place, of really reaching a place where actually in the midst of a challenge, I would be driving down the road, in the midst of a challenge. I could have been ruminating over all the things that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest overwhelming feeling was, I am just so happy right now. Mm-hmm. I have absolutely no external reason to be feeling this way. But it's just that it just comes from that connection. And it comes from just leaning into that connection and really feeling that. And then that started to become more and more a dominant energy in my life. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean you won't have moments where you feel other things, but it's a place that then you return to again and again, because it's the underlying energy underneath everything. So I would tell clients when they first start working with me, you will get to this place of this unconditional happiness, this unconditional joy. And they would look at me like, you are crazy. Like, there's just no way that's going to happen for me, they would think, And sometimes these were people who were coming from really strong struggles, difficult health issues, feeling depressed, anxiety, and so on. And by, because it's a process, and it's a process of continuing to shift that energy and that frequency and plugging in, they would reach it. So I clearly remember different clients saying to me, I was doing something the other day and I suddenly was overwhelmed by, oh my God, I'm just so happy and I have absolutely no reason why I should be this happy. And they were like, you're right. And of course, then it becomes that once that kicks in and then starts to become the normal, it starts to become a new normal for people. That's the underlying energy and vibration underneath that person. So life will happen, we'll still have our challenges, but there's this underlying underneath feeling. I actually spent 4 months with Tibetan monks at one point in India and Nepal. And something that really struck me about the Tibetan people in general, actually, not even just the monks, because I went to schools where these kids had come from Tibet in order to escape what was happening there. And in order to get an education, they'd had to leave their parents, maybe at 6 years old. Many of them came that young. They were escorted over the Himalayas by guides, and it was very risky, very dangerous. So, and now they were in these group schools, and when you go into the actual where they live, they just have all the beds. They just would have one, like a big dorm for girls and a big dorm for boys, and these thin beds, like mattress, literally couldn't have been more than this. And this is about maybe an inch and a little bit. And so really not much. They were getting food, they were getting an education, they just had each other and they're all in together, no parents around. But everybody, in general, the kids and the monks, they just had this happiness about them. I actually laughed, I think, more in 4 months that 4 months of my life than at any other time in my life. And here I was there for like spiritual infusion. And that's why they're so happy, because they're so connected in with their spiritual practice. They're so connected in with that peace inside and that deep, that spark inside. And so they would have joy in difficult conditions. And you'll see that in other parts of the world as well, where you see kids and they're practically starving and they're so happy because they're just connected. So it was a very tangible, visceral experience with that.
I can imagine. I remember being on the farm in Australia where my husband and I were, and these 2 monks came to stay with us for a weekend or something like that. And they didn't really talk very much. I don't know how much English they spoke or not, but they would come into the restaurant. And I remember coming into the restaurant and they were sitting at the breakfast table. And I walked by and I saw them and I smiled and there was this energy coming off. And then I stopped and I turned and I looked back and they were both sitting there drinking a glass of wine and they were laughing at whatever it was that they were talking about. And here it was like 9 or 9:30 in the morning. And there was just this joy that really just emanated from them that was like really tangible and palpable. I really remember that. So I can only imagine being around more of that and being in a place where they practice that spiritual connection.
Yeah.
Then that energy would be so much more strong. So I love that story. That's really fun. And when you're talking, there was another thing that I wanted to pick up on about you saying your clients coming to that place of just feeling joy for no reason.
Yeah.
I think that's, I've had that experience myself as well. And it's so nice knowing that you can go through a struggle and yet through that spiritual connection and through the practice of asking to feel more of what you want. So if it's more love, more joy, more happiness, that as you cultivate that over time, that's the frequency that becomes the strongest. Like you said, it's underlying, it comes across into everything so that we can actually bring that vibration and that connection into the challenges that we're experiencing and really alleviate the stress for things to turn out in a specific way.
Right. Yeah. Have that trust that if you're in the flow with a higher, very high frequency energy, high vibrational, it's spinning at a fast rate. It's got a high vibration to it. That will lead you to what that in itself will take you where you need to go, and kind of releasing and letting go into it. It's just, I think it really is possible to feel bliss even in a crisis. And it's not that we're not taking the crisis seriously in terms of taking action, what we need to do, but it's just because there's a greater thing being worked out, and we can release and be at peace with that.
Mm-hmm. And that gives us so much freedom. I mean, just listening and thinking, okay, I can be in the midst, I can be under shit or mud, whatever, to the eyeballs, but I can still ask and choose to tap into that frequency, and knowing that does that, it's going to carry me through that challenge. And so it gives us the opportunity to then look at challenges as gifts, as ways of us to practice this knowledge that we've gained and to really activate and use this vibrational frequency that we have been training ourselves to actually activate and feel.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I totally agree. I love that way you put that.
It's so much fun. And I personally did just have a time period where I was having a challenge that I've had in the past, and I didn't want to have to face it again. Right. And yet I just knew that the more that I focused on what brought me pleasure, and really using my spiritual connection to foster that in every moment, that I would get through to the other side. Like you just said, there's this trust that gets activated along with that as well. And, now I'm on the other side of it, and I'm just like, thank God I didn't have to fall back into that place where I was judgmental of myself, or I was beating myself up through it, or I was telling myself this story. Well, here you are again, like everything that you've just learned has gone down the hill with the mudslide, but there it was that I got to practice it, and I know that it's real.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's part of why things happen and why they repeat, because we get to do it again. We get to kind of graduate from that experience, or the kind of hold it has on us. That we need triggers in order to trigger up what has not been fully addressed before. And once there's nothing to trigger, we don't need it anymore. So it's kind of complete. I definitely, I think it's important within this concept too, to be authentic with what comes up. Like, not a Pollyanna type of happiness, not kind of, oh, everything's fine, and it really isn't. And, but the more we are real with the emotion that we have at the moment, the more peace dominates our life. And I actually have come to, and have the realization for myself, and watching other people as well, that this pleasure and this joy really comes from a place of deep peace. And deep peace comes from connection, of course, and deep acceptance. When we fight and resist things, we create more struggle, and we create more problems. And in order to free up our energy, we do have to really be present to and kind of release and love through all the compacted stuff that we didn't deal with before. So that is part of getting lighter. So sometimes when you're on that journey into more of a light way of being, it can feel heavier at first, just because you're going through those layers. But that's what gets you to that underpinning feeling of just being happy for no reason, is because there's deep acceptance, there's deep peace. When you've got deep acceptance, deep peace, you're not going to beat yourself up. It just doesn't happen anymore. There isn't all that engagement in the mind, and you're just with the emotion, rather than judging it, rather than resisting it, rather than trying to annihilate it, or inoculate it and numb it out. And that allows it to wash through. And I think that's really important to understand, that it isn't just, I'll just jump over here and be super happy and change my mood, and because that doesn't actually last. That's kind of temporary. And that's what people do when they party. And not saying don't party, because that's fun. I like fun a lot, and I love to dance and all of that, but that they're trying to numb out how they're feeling. They're trying to get away from how they're feeling. And of course that can lead to all kinds of issues doing that. But really being present and willing to be fully engaged with your life 100% as you go, and to feel it all the way, that to me is a big part of feeling this pleasure and feeling this joy at all times, and feeling connected at all times. And again, we can't walk through all of that without that connection. It's that connection that then helps us be present when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're in grief, when we have a heartbreak. We can be present to it rather than resisting it.
Absolutely. And I've come to a point where when I have those emotions where I'm not feeling energetic, or I'm angry at myself for something that I've done, or I'm feeling fear, I know that when I experience that emotion and I go through it, on the other side, that joy and pleasure and happiness vibration is just going to expand and grow.
Yes.
And so I know okay, I'm going to go through this challenge again. But wait a second, I also know that when I get to the other side of it, I'm going to feel better than I ever have before.
Yeah.
And so keeping that connection and keeping that focus is what then takes you and helps you to expand and, like you said, become more of a being that's full of light. Really beautiful. And I think that's a good place for us to leave it. I do want to invite you. I know that you have some offerings for people if they want to get to know you better, if they want to connect to you even more. So please share how people who are watching this can connect with you more.
All right, thank you. Yes, I would love to do that. I love to connect, and I love helping people. So I'd love to offer for anybody who's listened to this and then interested in connecting with me more, to actually contact me, and I'll give you my email address for a free breakthrough session. It's just a short breakthrough session where I'm just going to gauge where you are now, where you'd like to go, and how you could get there. That is the email address to connect with me, and just say that you were listening to this broadcast, not sure what you call them. It's not a podcast, but that you're listening to Melissa, you're watching Melissa's broadcast and heard me here, and you'd like to take up on that offer. And my email is my name, so Cheryl, Cheryl, Angela, Angela, 99@gmail.com. If you go to my website, which is cherylangela.com, you can opt into my list if you like, and you'll get a free download of music for the root chakra. And you can also look at music there and some other things on there on my website. So those are my offers, and I'm on Facebook too as Cheryl Angela. You'll see me there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. I love connecting with you, like I said, in this way. And please take Cheryl up on her offer. She is a beautiful, sensitive, giving soul. And I know that spending time with her will definitely help you to increase your frequency. Check out her music. Like I said, I listen to it all the time. And the root chakra is a great place to start if you want to feel more safe and you want to feel more courage to be able to move forward and to ask for more of what you want, and to then open and receive all that is here for you through that powerful connection that you make with spirit. So thank you again, Angela, Cheryl.
Yeah, both names work, actually. I answer to either one. It happens all the time.
I know some people who call you Angela. That's what.
Yeah, they do. I just say yes. Yeah.
That's hilarious. And so thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned for an interview coming up next month. I do have one of these interviews each and every month where I get to interview a beautiful soul and we get to share about a specific topic. And if you do want to get first notice of that, be sure to subscribe below this video. And, I would love to have likes and to have you comment and keep the conversation going. And be sure, again, to connect with Cheryl so that you can be in her space for a longer period of time. I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, love. Much love to you.
Much love to you.
And we'll see everyone next month.
Bye.